For this comparative test, we're going to look at different kitchen rolls and see which absorbs the most water. I've got 3 from Lidl and 1 from Aldi. We're going to start by putting 50 ml of water onto a plate. I've got this handy little measuring jug at home that I can use. Then we're going to place the kitchen roll. I'm just going to set the timer. I'm going to leave it there for 10 seconds and to see what will be absorbed. So I'm going to place the kitchen roll down onto the water, leave it for 10 seconds, then I'm going to remove that as quickly as I can and measure the water that's left on the plate. I'm just going to put that to one side so it's out of the way. I'm going to measure the water that's left by tipping it back into the measuring jug. There we go. See what's left. And so this one has absorbed 20 ml. So now I'm going to test the second of the bits of kitchen roll. This is actually the cheapest of the Lidl ones. I've got 3 from Lidl and 1 from Aldi. Again, 50 ml of water. What I've done is I've changed my plate so it starts dry, just so that we can get a more accurate comparison of the two. Here I go, I'm trying to set the timer. Quite sure why it's taking quite so long this time. Anyway, there we go. My son was actually helping with this and he says that it's oddly satisfying watching that water being absorbed. So again, I'm going to tip off the water carefully. See, I've taken precautions, like you can see I'm working on a tea towel today, just in case I have any spillages. Work out how much I've got. So that one absorbed 15 ml, so not as good as the first one. So here we have the third of our pieces of kitchen towel that we're going to test. This is the most expensive of the 4 that we're going to test today. Again, there's 50 ml, another dry plate, all these things that keep the variables controlled, but it doesn't make it a fair test. That's one reason why I've actually had to push this one down a bit. There we go, and taking it off. Back to measuring it again. In school you might have some measuring cylinders, you'd get perhaps a bit more accurate measure than this is giving me, but for equipment we've got at home, that's not bad. And that was much better, that absorbed half of the water we put. Here we go, this is the 4th paper we're going to test exactly the same way. Dry plate, water on. There's the paper going on. This one seems to absorb quite quickly. Be interesting to see how much it actually absorbs. There we go, taking it off, putting our little measuring jug there to capture all the water. Obviously there are bits left on the plate, so another reason why this isn't a completely fair test. The different amounts will have been left on the plate each time. There we go, this one has absorbed. Now I've got my results at a very basic level. Actually I could just organise these into least absorbed to most absorbed. Now what I can do is I could create a simple bar chart with the data that I have collected. This would be really good in a floor book, perhaps with younger children. You could, I'm using a visualizer to do this, so you could model this with your visualizer so they could see on the board everything that you are doing as you're doing it, or you could have them on the floor in a circle and you could model it there and then on the floor. Obviously, finally, at the end of my comparative test, I would want the children to start thinking about other questions that we could potentially test, so things like value for money. does the temperature of the water make a difference to this, to how much is absorbed? What about the number of layers in the sheets of kitchen roll? What about if the different quantity of water that I start with, does that make a difference? There are all sorts of other things children could come up with, things like other brands.